Hi everyone, welcome back to Awesome Crafters YouTube channel. I'm Lisa and today I'm going to be showing you how I made my personalised doormat. This is the mat that I've previously made and I made this using a design that I'd bought from Design Bundles, but today we're going to be designing our own design for our mat in just using text. So that's the doormat, and the doormat we're using is just a Koya. It's a Koya PVC backed doormat and we're going to be using outdoor acrylic paints on it. We're also going to be using freezer paper to make the stencil, and we've obviously got some stenciling brushes. I've also got a weeding tool. We're going to need some frog tape. I've got a tape measure, some pins, a Cricut cutting machine and a Cricut easy press, and we're going to be using the extra large Cricut cutting mat. To get started, we just need to head over to Design Space to lay out the design that we're going to use on the front of our doormat. Now we're in Design Space, what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the text icon on the left hand side, and we're just going to click on that, and in there I'm just going to type the word home. This is the word that I'm going to use on the mat that I'm going to make now. And now I'm going to head up and I'm going to change the font. You can use any font that you like. I'm going to use Sunday Melon. This is a font that I've purchased from Design Bundles. So I'm just going to use that one. And there we are. So we're just going to click on that. And now it's changed my font. That's brilliant. So this is the mat that I made when I was trialing out this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the design. And as we can see, it's 20 inches across. That's quite a nice design and it fits quite nicely. So I'm going to head back over into Design Space and I'm going to change the size of the word home to be 20 inches because I know that that's going to fit perfectly. So now we're back into Design Space. What we're going to do, we're going to head up onto the top to the size box and I'm going to change the width to be 20, and I'm going to click the tab key and there we go, it's changed it and it's made the height 8.11 inches. So now we're just quickly back over here, we can see the 8 inches on the mat will fit fine as well. So I think we'll go with that size, that will work really well. Right, now I'm just going to click on ungroup, and that's going to ungroup all of my letters, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a shape and I'm going to choose a love heart. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that love heart down, I'm going to make it larger. So it's roughly the same size, the same height as my other letters. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unlock it and I'm going to try and shrink it, make it a little bit skinnier, because what I want to do is I want to replace the letter O with a love heart. So there we can see it's about the same size now as my letter O. And because I've ungrouped all my letters, I can just whiz that one out of the way now and I can replace it with the love heart. I don't want it to be too skinny, but what I can do is I'm going to get rid of that one now, and now all my letters are ungrouped, I can just slightly move them across to make a little bit of space for it. Like so. And there we go. So I've just made it a little bit different and I've just changed the letter O. We're just going to replace it with a love heart to make it look a bit more homely, and then I'm just going to click on select all and I'm going to attach them back together so that when we cut it, then it will cut them all out as I want them to be. So as we can see, it's too large for the standard mat, so we're using the 12 by 24 inch mat, which is fine, and it's going to fit on there. So because it's saying our image is larger, we need to use that mat, so we're going to click on OK. We're not using heat transfer vinyl, so we don't need to mirror it or anything. We're just making this to be a stencil. So we're going to click on continue. Now we're back over here, we just need to prepare our mat now. So we're going to take our freezer paper, and with the freezer paper, there's a waxy side to it and a papery side. So we're going to lay the waxy side down onto the mat. I'm just going to press it down. Don't really want any of the air bubbles in it. Then I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm just going to trim off the excess freezer paper. So for the materials, we're going to click on Browse All Material and we're going to go in search material and we're going to type in freezer paper. And there we can see it. So we're just going to click on that and then click done. And now it's appeared here. We're just going to go with the default pressure, and it's the fine point blade that we're using. To load our mat, all we're going to do is place our mat into our Cricut machine, and we're going to press the flashing load button, and that will load our mat. I'm just going to move my Cricut machine slightly forward because we're going to need quite a lot of extra space for the extra long mat. And now I'm going to press the flashing Cricut button to start it cutting our stencil. Now that our stencil has been cut out, we just need to unload the cutting mat by pressing on the flashing button. Now we're ready to weed our stencil, and I did find that the easiest way to weed it was actually to weed it while it's still on the cutting mat. So we're just going to take a weeding tool and we're going to weed out the letters. It's ever so easy, and because they're nice and big, it works really well. We now need to carefully peel off the stencil from the cutting mat. We'll deal with a little part of the E in a moment. So now what we need to do is we need to now position our stencil onto our mat. I'm going to pop them on just to hold it down, just so I can measure to make sure that my design is where I want it to be. Okay, so that's looking about central. So we'll just measure from the top and bottom. This is where our frog tape and pins are going to come in really handy, because what we're going to do now is we're going to use the frog tape and we're going to tape all around the outside to hold the stencil down as flat as possible. And then all the bits that are curling up in the centre, we're going to use the pins. These are just 13mm long pins, so they're only short ones. So then we're going to pin down all the rest so that our stencil is nice and flat, so that when it comes to painting, our acrylic paint is not going to seep underneath. Now that we're almost done with the pinning down of our design, like I said, we haven't forgot about our part of the E. So what we're going to do is we're just going to gently remove that, and then we just have to place it into the centre of our E, like so, and then just pin that down like we've done with the rest of the stencil. Now that all our pins are in place and our stencil is fastened down, what we're going to do now is just going to take our heat press and we're just going to quickly and lightly just heat over it to make it flatter. So I've warmed my heat press up to 160 degrees, and now I'm just going to gently lay it on just to secure it down using the waxy side of the freezer paper. Don't need to hold it on for long, we just need to try and tack it down a little bit. And when we're doing it, we don't want to be moving it, we don't want the pins to damage the plate on the easy press. As we can see now, look, it's just tacking it down and just holding it down a little bit firmer for us. This is just going to help us when we do the actual stenciling. Now we're ready to take our acrylic paint and start painting on our design. For this, I'm just using outdoor acrylic paint that I just purchased from Amazon. So I'm going to do red in the heart and I'm going to do black in the other three letters. I'm going to take a brush and our black acrylic paint, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to squeeze in some of the paint. I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to start dabbing it into the mat. We want it to get down into the fibres so that we get the colour. I'm now going to do this for the whole of the word, and when that's done I shall be back with you. See you shortly. And there we have our first layer all completed, and this is how our doormat is looking so far. We don't need to wait for the acrylic paint to dry before we paint it again. We can just crack on and just start painting the next layer just to make sure that all the fibres are totally covered. So I'm going to crack on with that now, and I will be back with you once it's all painted. And now, after painting it for the second time, we now have our completed design. As you've only just finished painting it, obviously the paint is quite wet, but now is the best time to remove the freezer paper from the design. You just need to be really careful because obviously there is wet paint on it and we don't want it to destroy any of the design. The little pins that we've used, you can pop them in a pot and reuse them again if you wish. You probably just need a little bit of a wash to get any of the paint off. So we're just going to carefully remove our freezer paper, and as you can see it starts to reveal our design and it looks absolutely perfect. I just love the crispness that this technique creates. There you have your completed doormat. I think these look absolutely fab. I absolutely love this technique and this way of making them. I think it does look absolutely stunning, and I think it looks perfect when it's at your front door, and when people see it they will be wowed, honestly. And it's so quick and easy really to make, and it wasn't even all that expensive. I will link down below in the description where I got all my products from. I would also suggest now that you leave this to dry for roughly 24 hours or until all the acrylic paint is totally dry, and if you wish to you can spray it with an acrylic sealer just to seal it, but I've never found that to be necessary, but obviously it's your choice if you do or not. I really hope you enjoyed this video and I will look forward to seeing you in my next one. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.